Hi everyone, welcome back to JP WHU TV. It's nice to see you. I hope you're keeping well. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody that subscribed over the last 7 days, pushing us over the 3,200 subscriber mark. I've been trying to do it for months, and all of a sudden, last week, you guys decided to do it. So thank you very, very much for your support. As always, guys, this video is sponsored by the channel sponsor, 3retro.com. Please click the link in the description below that will take you directly through to the West Ham section of their website, where you can purchase some really nice retro gear, guys, along with Admiral and Umbro track jackets, polo shirts, sweatshirts and t-shirts as displayed up here. Any purchases you make through the link in the description below, the commission that the channel would normally be getting, I'll be sending directly onto the charity Iron Supporting Food Banks. They're based in the Newham area, and they're helping those in the Newham area and the Essex County and further afield for that matter, to help people that are really struggling over the last few years to put some food on their tables. So guys, go grab yourself some really nice retro gear or a very nice polo track jacket, whatever you want in claret and blue. You'll be saving yourself a few quid in comparison to the club shop, and you'll be helping those that are less fortunate than you and I. So guys, this is the third episode of the mini series where myself and Lawrence review the West Ham positions, not the players themselves, the positions, and this is the final one, and it looks like once again we've timed it just right with all the Carlos Borges story. So yeah, we're going to be talking about forwards in this video. So first of all, of course, let's welcome back our guest. Lawrence, how you doing, mate?
Hello, buddy. I'm well, thank you very much.
Good, glad to hear it. So yeah, the final part of the mini series, and yeah, news today that a 19-year-old player that we've been trying to get in for the last 6-7 weeks is off to he's off to Ajax, according to Fabrizio Romano, to have his medical today, or yesterday by the time the guys on YouTube are watching this. Thoughts on another potentially failed attempt to bring a player in, mate?
I think it's that more than the player themselves, which is frustrating. The kid looked interesting, shining talent in the second Premier League. Best player, I think, voted last year, was he not? But who knows what he would have been like. I don't think we've known David Moyes that he would have brought him into the team straight away. So we've not lost out on a key deal here, but we are getting closer and closer to the start of the season without a single signing. And, regardless of the player involved, it's just frustrating, as a whole, to see us not doing anything, which I know is a bit of a contrast to, sort of talking last week and saying, well, we always leave it late, Dithering Dave and all of that, but it's getting pretty close now. I think we're probably slower this year than previous, right?
To be honest with you, mate, get it right in the. We think one of these days I'll get the sequencing right. You won't see it until it goes up anyway. But yeah, I did say last season when we brought in those 9 players, I said we're not going to do this again. It's just not going to happen. And unfortunately, I was proven right. And one of the reasons why is because, as we remember, 7 years ago we moved from Upton Park to the London Stadium. We brought in 12 new players, and we fought a relegation battle in that season. Skip on 6 years, we bring in 9 players, 8 if you discount Areola, because obviously he was on loan with us beforehand, and for towards the third of the season, we were in a relegation fight. 6 seasons ago, we hardly made any signings as a result of it, and this is, unfortunately, I reckon this is the same reason why this has happened. Now, unfortunately, one of the reasons apparently why the Borges deal has failed, there's no other way of putting it, it's failed, was because the agent was pissing about. Okay. For one, there was very reasonable arguments as to why it was taking so long, because the Man City hierarchy were out in that Asia Cup or whatever it was, and they've only just come back within the last couple of days. So that was a lot of people's thinking as to why that deal, the Borges deal, was going to get done this week. Even X itself has said he's hoping it should be done by the end of the week. And then today, or yesterday for you guys, it was announced that he's having his medical in Ajax. Now, one of the reasons behind that, I reckon, and you're absolutely right, spot on here, mate. Apparently, that's one of the other reasons as well, is the fact that Moyes has said to him, "I can't guarantee you much football." Makes complete sense. He's 19 years old. I don't think he's ever played in the Premier League before itself. Yes, you're absolutely right. He was voted the player of the Premier League too. He's done very well for Portugal at the under-21s as well. He's quick. He's everything that we want as a West Ham supporter, 100%. And that, unfortunately, is the reason why it's not gone through. Because at the end of the day, I kind of think there's a bit of an ego play here from Borgia. In the same way that Alex Scott deal didn't go through either. And funny enough, where's he gone? He's still with his Bristol City side or whoever the club is. I haven't seen him sign anywhere else. So I kind of think that he was thinking, right, we'll come to West Ham and it'll be like, great, you've got European football, you help with the centre forward positions or wingers as he is capable of doing, which we'll come on to in a minute. But yeah, it's just like, well, I can't guarantee you first team football. You're going to have to fight for it. And to be honest, I'll get your thoughts on this in a second, Rog, but from my personal opinion, I want David Moyes to do that. I want him to be completely upfront and honest with him and go, yeah, I can't guarantee you football, but I want you to earn your place. I don't want anybody playing for West Ham under two circumstances, right? Steiden, Sullivan and Moyes bullshit him saying, yeah, you're in our plans for the long-term future and the short-term as well, come and play us. And then he doesn't play for 6 weeks and he's pissed off on the bench. You don't want that in any shape or form. And likewise, you don't want a player that's just going to come here because obviously it's going to be a step down from his point of view, coming from Man City to us being in the B team or whatever side of it is. But I don't want somebody coming to the thing thinking, yeah, I'm going to be on 50, 60 grand a week to sit on the bench. Don't want that. I want somebody, like all of us do, I want somebody that's going to come in and fight for their place and fight to keep it as well. We've got many, many players, especially in the positions we're going to be talking about over the last few years, that have been very complacent. And there's a player that we talked about in the first week, in the first episode, that has been very, very accused of a lot of complacency up until is the new signing last season as well. Aaron Creswell has looked very, very happy and complacent with being where he is in the side and everything. And then all of a sudden, Emerson comes in and he starts playing well again. Likewise with Antonio. He was mulling around all over the bleeding place until Scamacca came in. What are your thoughts on what I'm talking about here, mate?
Well, first of all, I mean, I agree with you with the Borges thing. You can't, as a 19-year-old, walk into any Premier League side, no matter how well you've done, in the second league, and just demand to be playing every week. And whether or not he actually was, obviously, that's a lot of speculation. I've also heard speculation that perhaps it wasn't, playing into this sort of dynamic between Moyes and Steidman. Is that how we're pronouncing this?
Steidman, apparently.
Thank you. That perhaps that was one of his and Moyes didn't fancy it so much. So there's going to be all of this talk around that particular deal. And, until the books get written in 30 years' time, we won't know. But, certainly, I think he'll get a much better shot at Ajax. It makes sense, I think, for him as a player to go over there. They've got a bit of a track record recently for bringing younger players through. So, yeah, as I say, that deal. But the frustrating thing is that we are, 10 days away, 9 days for the viewers, away from the start of the season and nothing. We've just sold our star player and captain and we've brought nothing in to replace him. We obviously covered the midfield last week, but I think it's clear to see that we have a huge hole in it.
Yeah.
What are we doing about it at the moment? Maybe James Ward-Prowse.
I get people's reservations over him, mate. Yeah.
Well, it's not even that. It's I like him. He's a good player. But at this rate, he's going to have 2 days to settle into the squad before we play Bournemouth. So it's he's. I'm not sure he can hit the ground running quite that hard.
I mean, there's good arguments on both sides from the stuff that we're hearing about David Moyes and the stuff we're hearing about Tim Steidman and David Sullivan, right? It makes complete sense. I mean, looking at the bigger picture of this, we will talk about the forwards in just a minute itself, but looking at the bigger picture of this, right? You've got Steidman. We kind of touched on this the other week, but I just want to reiterate it again. You got Steiden, who's very much into making sure that there's enough in the football team going forward. Yeah, literally. He wants to bring in players that are going to be young enough in order to come through, make the club a few million quid profit in the next few seasons. Yeah. David Moyes, however, right, he's in the last year of his deal. He's got no... Mate, you're going to have to stay still. You're going to have to stay still. One way or the other, please. You keep moving about all over the place, and I'm trying to keep you in frame. There you go. Yeah, so as I say, Tim Steiden's come in, basically telling Moyes what to do from one point of view. Moyes has got 1 year left on his deal. He hasn't got the overall say anymore. And he wants players to make sure we don't get into a relegation scrap next season. I get it. From both points of view, I totally understand why there's all this debacle that's going on at the moment. And I can also understand why it's making everybody in the fan base panic. I totally get it. I don't agree with it because we've had this since Redknapp. And everyone's like, oh, it's David Sullivan's fault. It's David Moyes' fault. Yeah, but it's the West Ham way. It really is the West Ham way. We've been doing this for donkey's years. I don't like it, like everybody else, but from when you look at it again, looking at the bigger picture, if you can't control something, why get stressed about it? You can't make the decision you can't make anything any better. So personally, I mean, I'm just as worried as you, mate. I was having I was telling Paul on the three hammers over the weekend just to calm the fuck down because they're just like, oh, it's all crisis, and I get it. I understand the reasons why. I never said he was wrong. It was just the fact that it's just like we do this every single season, and it's just like, why wind yourself up with it when you can't make any changes whatsoever? Just chill the fuck down. Seriously, everybody.
Can I ask you a question? If we start the season with a midfield of Downs and Souček, would you call it a crisis?
I'd call it a worry. That's for sure.
A significant worry.
But I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to be worried about this. Because it's a football club that we absolutely love. And we want to go in. I mean, you touched on it earlier. Selling Declan Rice is got two holes. Yeah, it's got. I bet he was. You can argue Lucas Paqueta was towards the end of the season, but in general, Rice was up there in the top two of the best players last season. Obviously Benrahma started it, and Rice held it for most of it, and then Paqueta kicked on at the end of the season. But not only that, for the second season in a row, we've lost our captain. So there's two holes. Two for the price of one, shall we say? Literally two for the price of one. And as a result of that, I am worried because we are in a worse state than we were 3 months ago. Completely. Yeah. Even though we were shitting it at the beginning of May, that we were just about on the verge of safety. We are in a worse position because not only that, but we've got rid of a player. We've released a player, Lanzini, who is capable of being a forward. He's played out on the left. He's been shit at it, but he's been played out on the left. He's he's a number 10 role for a lot of the time. And Moyes is totally right. He does deserve to play more regular football, and that's the reason why we released him. Injuries aside, that's the main reason was he wasn't getting the game time because of that, and he's not as quick as he used to be either, which is one of the reasons he's done that Paul Scholes style before he retired. Just sitting a little bit further back than what he was used to, or at least he started out with, I should say. So I understand why people are worried, and I'm really, really worried as well. But at the same point, I'm not losing any sleep over it. We've seen this many, many, many times. So right, let's get on to the actual topic now. Fucking quarter of an hour in. Right, so forward position. So just as a recap, we've got on the left hand side, we've got Cornet that can play there. We've got Benrahma that can play there. We can even say Bowen can do the right hand side as well, for left and right hand side as well, for that matter. And of course, obviously, this Borgia kid was to come in to give both of those guys especially Ben Rama and Cornet competition because his natural position was left wing. So with that in mind, the fact that as it stands at the time of this recording, we've only got Cornet and Benrahma on the left-hand side. Are you happy with that, or do you think we still need to look?
Yeah. Fornals, I suppose, plays out there every now and again, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Benrahma, I rate. I think he holds down the starting position in the team. Cornet, I was excited about last year and still kind of am because we really didn't see very much of him. And when we did see him, he was offside most of the time.
Antonio 2.0, mate, really.
Or worse. He looks like another one of those ones that Moyes would love to turn into a striker. But if
he's tried it in pre-season, hasn't he? He's had him up front a couple of times.
Right, perfect, absolutely. So, but if he's going to do it, and I haven't watched much of the pre-season, to be honest with you, I've been crazy these last few weeks, but he's going to have to learn timing, because every time he tried it last year, he looked really exciting. He would score, if I remember rightly, or even at least get through.
Yeah.
And continuously be offside. I think you probably want to have an extra player as cover. That possibly should be a younger player with the profile of someone like Borgia, but who's potentially not so desperate to play first team football that he'll go elsewhere, that he can sit on the bench. I think you probably have someone covering that in most positions. So I don't think it's a panic spot, with the exception of if I could see into Cornet's physio file. Another season like the last one, then you're a player.
Yeah, well, the problem was the fact that, as we all know, he was playing with an injury that was exceptionally rare. Again, the West Ham way, the absolute West Ham way. And you're absolutely right about Pablo Fornals. He can play left on the left wing. Again, it's not exactly brilliant there. He's more of a between an 8 and a 10 really for me, in that regards. But yeah, I do personally think, I completely agree. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we do look at another option in the next few. Well, literally the rest, because the window closes the 31st of August, if I remember correctly. So we've got all month. I mean, let's not forget, guys. 24 hours is a long time in football, much less 4 weeks. So. It's thinking, like, for example, Bowen was basically done in a day, pretty much. And it was, so from that point of view. But yeah, so of course, obviously we've got that's one of the reasons why I left him out, because I said for the number 10 stroke second striker role, we've got Danny Ings and Pablo Fornals in there, as far as I'm concerned. Ings, for me, 100% second striker. Would you agree with that?
Behind Antonio.
Or Scamacca, either one of the two.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, second striker either on the bench or as part of a two, which I think is how he's traditionally been used and how he's generally sort of excelled as part of a partnership, right? So yes, I would certainly not have him as my starting striker at West Ham United. No. But that said, I've got a lot of time for Danny Ings. Whether he's a good fit for us or whether he was a bit of a panic buy as we approach the championship. Not for me as a starter. No, second choice for Lower.
Yeah, I mean, what I mean by second striker is, you're right, 100%. But because the majority of the time we're going to be probably a 4-5-1 again, or 5-3-2-1, whatever, all that sort of stuff. But what it is going to be is second striker is, for me, is just sitting back, kind of like how like Di Canio did for a little bit, that sort of like floating around in the attacking midfield, but able to get balls up to the centre forward. I mean, let's not forget we've got Mubama coming through, who is, out of all of the juniors that have gone out on the pre-season, is the only one that's being retained. Everybody else is being loaned out, and certain guys is, what was it? The Potts kids out on loan at Crawley, I think it is, and a few other little, Swires are off on loan as well. So we've got the options of there, but yes, 100% for me, I would rest Ings, but at the same point, if we're going to start with Scamacca, which I'm hoping we will do, I know there's a lot of talk about him allegedly agreeing a deal to go to, was it Roma? I think it is. But at the same point, I do think if that's going to happen, that's going to be more January than it is now. Because let's not forget, also on the right hand side, that can play there again. Cornet can play there, but we've also got Antonio, who's, let's not forget, he's plays out on the right, and as well as up front. So, and Antonio's coming into the last year of his contract as it stands at the moment, and from certainly the rumblings over the last 8 to 10 months is the fact that it looks like he wants to move as quickly as possible. Obviously, the Saudi deal seems to be going nowhere because they want to get him on a free, and we want to sell him. Makes sense. He's in his last year of his contract. But yeah, at the same point. So, as I say, theoretically. Because one of the things that I love about the forward line that we've got is we've got players that can play in more than one position. I really, really love that. Bowen can play up front, second striker off the main striker, and likewise on the right hand side as well. And then so from the right hand wing point of view, how do you feel that we are there? Are we okay with that, or do you feel we need to look at someone to eventually come through again?
I think we're in a worse situation on the right than we are on the left. It's interesting. Did we discuss Antonio when we talked about right backs? Yes, he can play right. He has done before. I don't think you'd really want to put him there anymore. He would be like what is it the kids say, a B-Tech Amanda Traore. I don't think he's quite got that anymore. If he ever did in the first place, to be perfectly honest with you, he never set the world on fire. So really, I mean, yeah, correct me if I'm right. Cornet, yes, can play on the right-hand side. But you've got the same problem with him, and he can't be on the left at the same time.
Exactly.
So really, we've just got Bowen in that position, or Cornet, and then you've got the same problem on the left. So there definitely needs to be some more reinforcement in terms of wingers, and I think the right-hand side is probably where you'd look to do it, with Cornet being, I think, more of a natural fit on the left. So yeah, action needed here, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because, yeah, as great as it is to have a versatile left or right winger, he's going to come on as a sub at some point to either one of the 5 positions you can do up front, to be honest with you. But yeah, he's more than likely going to go out on the left or second striker position, etc., etc. So okay, so that brings us round to the big talking point that has been for a good few years: the centre forward stroke striker. There is a slight difference between the two, but we'll talk about that another time. So yeah, the actual centre forward positions we've got, as I said, I've hinted at already, Mubama coming through. We've got Skamaka as it stands at the minute, and we've got Antonio. So for the first time ever, mate, do you agree with me that we don't actually need to get a centre forward, or do you still feel that, given the fact we've got 4 weeks and anything's possible, either two, or possibly could both be off by the end of the month?
So I like to say about Antonio that whenever he touches a football, the gods roll a dice, essentially, and you don't know whether it's going to be a 1 or a 6. And that's exactly how it's going to be with the centre forward position. We're going to have to be so responsive. I'm surprised Antonio's still here. The last home game of the season, when he did the lap, he looked like he was gone. It's like, right out in front of everyone else, giving it the full 2 hands. And then sort of like sulking for a little while, and then remembering what he had to do and giving it to him again. I really thought he'd be gone. I like Antonio a lot, by the way, and would sorely miss him. He's been one of the, not only obviously has become our top goal scorer, at times over the last few seasons, the 2 Moyes spells especially, he's been like unplayable. He's been one of the best strikers in the league at times over this. Plus, he's a funny guy. He's just one of these people that is good for the dressing room, and crashing into houses dressed as a snowman. All of this stuff that just is so fucking fantastic. It's so West Ham. So I'd be sad to see him go, but I think he felt like the time was up more so than possibly the club or the fans. Whether or not that's because he's had about 5 seasons of someone trying to replace him. Maybe he's finally had enough of that. Obviously, he's spoken out on his podcast about, his teammates, Skamaka, which in the old days, I think probably would have gotten you a hiding.
It probably did behind closed doors, mate. To be fair, it probably
It
did.
wouldn't surprise me. That he must have had to eat some for that. You can't really be doing that, can you? But there we are, 21st century podcast. It's a new game. So listen, it wouldn't surprise me still to see him go. It really wouldn't. I think he's made his mind up, and we know that at times, whilst he can be a world beater on his day, can be useless for months. And I worry that if going into the new season, it's that Antonio would get if he didn't go. Complete conjecture, it's just a feeling, but that's how I feel about that. Ditto Scamacca. Quite what the situation is with him, who knows? There's obviously a lot of talk about him going back to Italy. I think that's much of it is inevitably paper talk.
100%. Yeah, I mean the
This is
Italian
what they
journalists,
see.
like for example, at the weekend, right?
Today as well is another great example of that, where the bloke's been on TalkSport and said Paqueta's unhappy, and Paqueta's gone out on Twitter and replied to the comment just like, fake news. What is this? So much of that is probably that, but you can't help but feel there might be a little bit of truth to it. What do you think?
Well, mate, what I was about to say on this is just literally that it's complete bollocks. I don't believe a word of it. To the level, I agree. That's what I said earlier. That's why I was talking about him earlier. Was I agree that to a degree, if he's going to go, it's going to be more January because he's got a point to prove. 100% he's got a point to prove, not only to himself and to us, but he's also got a point to prove to Mancini as well, for that matter, that he's capable of having more than 3 minutes for Italy. So there's only one way he's going to do that, and it's either to leave, of course, or 100%, but. He's come out many times and said that he's got a point to prove. He wants to. He said he's happy at West Ham, and we can only take him at his word from that point of view because he's not exactly the happiest of people. But then again, neither was an Arnautovic. Even Balotelli, as talented as Balotelli was, I remember him coming out to the papers a few years ago saying that saying I don't agree why strikers should be celebrating when they score. That's their job. What was it? The line he said? He went, yeah. He said you don't see a postman celebrating every time he puts a letter through the letterbox. I love that. Brilliant. That's exactly how it should be.
I like that, and that's funny. I'm not sure I necessarily, but it's not quite the same. It's one to one.
But the point was the fact that he's a striker, doesn't have to celebrate because he's brought in to score. Like what was it? I can't remember who the player was now, but Redknapp has got a story about he rejected a striker because he said he wanted a goal bonus. I said, but you're a striker. You're being brought in to score goals.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, I love it. I really rate Scamacca, and I think one of the reasons I rate Scamacca is because he reminds me of Arnautovic, who I absolutely adored. And I like his style. I like not celebrating goals thing. I used to quite like that about Hilaire as well. The way that he would do it. Although it did turn out that actually he was monumentally pissed off.
Yeah, well, he wasn't the problem, unfortunately, as we found out. But
yes, right. But yeah, no, I keep Scamacca personally. If he wants to stay, I keep him here. There's a lot of questions about whether or not he works in the David Moyes team. Not being I can't answer that question. But I do know that he scored some great goals last season. I do know that he stayed out of it most season because of injuries, and I would love to see him have a free run at it. Again, I'd have to have a look in that physio folder because if it does turn out that he's crocked and Inter want to pay 25 million for him, then well.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing. We're gonna have to make our money back at least, which means 35 to 40 million euro bid. It's just not going to happen. It really isn't. I can't see it.
We tried to do that with Vlasic and it didn't quite work out, did it? It always seems to be like Serie A teams, doesn't it? That this happens with. But no, I can't see us getting our full load back for him. He's older, he's used goods, he's had an injury. He's possibly in a bit of a grump if that's not just his charming personality.
I mean, with Vlasic, it's slightly different. I mean, we touched on him yet last week when we were talking about midfielders, but it was with Vlasic, it's slightly different. He's come out and said, I'm not prepared to sit at West Ham for how they want me at the moment. You can argue that two ways. That's him saying I want out, or is he saying, look, I want to stay here, but play me the way that I was supposed to be played. It's that sort of thing. But Yeah, I mean, like just going back to Antonio, I think I think the first time I met you, I remember I was talking about him, and just like he's, and I've said it many times over the years, but he's literally a player that you can have a go at and celebrate in the same fucking breath. He really
Yeah.
irritates you, but I love him. He's a great character. I just think I think the time is for him to go. So, but as I say, in general, we're pretty much agreed that the majority of it's the wings that we need to be keeping an eye on rather than the actual centre forward positions for a change. It's normally the other way around.
As long as we keep those two and Mabama can do it. If you get to January and he can't do it, then you need to look at going back to the well, I think. And if either one of those two leaves, then we've got a bit of a problem. Centre forwards are not cheap, and we need to spend money elsewhere.
And again, that's why I'm saying I can't see us making our money back on Scamacca this season, this window, and therefore he's not going to be leaving.
You'd hope not, wouldn't you?
Okay.
We'll see.
Pretty much, mate. Well, stranger things have happened. I mean, not only because this is West Ham, but this is football in general, mate. Do you know what I mean? We've seen some bizarre things. But just to recap, because obviously we hit at it earlier. Looks like Wolves are trying to get Aaron Creswell on a 2 or 3 year deal apparently. Those prices around about £5 million. Do you think? Well, it's a twofold question, really. Do you think that we should sell him, and if so, do you think we should get somebody in first before we sell him?
I think he's been a great servant to the club. I think if he wants to move, I think we probably owe it to him. If the plan is for him to just be sitting on the bench, whereas he can be off playing first team football elsewhere, I don't think anyone could present him that. Do we need to get a replacement in? Well, yeah.
But more specifically, do we get a replacement in before we allow him to leave?
It would be sensible. We have the money in the bank. Yes, you would. I mean, unless, the relationship was about to break down and he was going to refuse to play anyway. Yes, you would look to do that. Yeah.
I mean, there are stories out there that he's refusing to train at the minute, which I don't believe. Creswell's doesn't strike me as that sort of player at all.
It's really strange. All of this stuff that's going on at the moment, all of the negativity and all of these talks. It's almost like we didn't just win a European Cup. It's so strange. I was thinking about this earlier, sort of, thinking about what else is going on in the world. I'm thinking it's almost like someone's like sort of psyoping us. Like there's a bot farm somewhere that's just dedicated to pumping out negative stuff about West Ham, and how much of it's true, I don't know. Perhaps it is, but I can't believe that this is a team that just won a cup.
Yeah.
It's the stories about players not wanting to come to us and things like this. It's I don't know.
As I say, I completely agree with you from that point of view, mate. That's one of the reasons why we don't talk about everything that comes out in the Daily Mail or the Sun on this channel. Other channels do, and that's fine. That's up to them. But it's just because it's clickbait at the end of the day. But yeah, it's just I prefer to see things that actually happen. Once people that you can actually rely on are saying that a medical's been happening, that's when the preview video. That's when my reaction comes out, which is the reason why, as I said to you last week, I said the Borges video is still ready to go, and it, and I haven't touched it because I wait until it's actually going to. You can only confirm it once it's confirmed. It's not about, for me personally, it's not about being the first one to do it. Because if you're the first one to do it and it doesn't happen, you look right mug, as far as I'm concerned. You want to be the first one to get it right? Yes, by all means, jump on. But at the end, no.
So we're not gonna see a JP Here We Go show anytime soon.
Last season we would have done it, yeah, 100%. But yeah, but at the same point, as I say, just to sum up, so basically we were in agreement that both fullback positions need to be reinforced. We did disagree about the goalkeeper, but that's more because you were thinking about this coming season, if I remember correctly. Whereas because obviously Fabianski's this time next year, Fabianski's off by the looks of things. Excuse me, 2 seconds. Yeah, Fabianski's off, so that's when the goalkeeper is going to have to be looked at again. And Yeah, centre backs we thought we were relatively okay, but it would be nice to have another one in. The midfield,
Mhm.
already mentioned it. Holes need to be plugged as quickly as possible. And then it's the wingers as well for that matter, because in midfield itself, in midfield to the centre forwards with like Paquetá and Fornals, etc. With we're okay with that one. So as it stands at the moment, final question, mate. As it stands at the moment, who would you want to have as captain?
Crikey. I'm not sure anybody fills me with huge amounts of confidence, to be perfectly honest with you. If we are playing Fabianski at number one, possibly. I think the only other viable choice really is Souček, and I'm not sure about that. Got a lot of heart.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I know what you mean, mate. I was contemplating this as well, because it's just like, because you've got, as far as like Fabianski out of the equation, because he should be backup goalkeeper this season. I know I said it last year, but he should be this season. So you've only really got Ogbonna, not going to happen. Last season of his last year of his contract, and he's a backup player at best, mostly for the European games. You've got Souček, who isn't exactly a team motivator, shall we say? There's no disrespect to him. And so for me personally, that only leaves one other person, and that's Agued.
Oh, interesting.
Agued,
So I was
not just because of the fact that he can speak multiple languages fluently. That really
right.
helps when you've got somebody apparently like Ben Rama, who can't speak a word of English, which is complete bollocks. And also for that matter, you've got Paquetá, who's trying to learn English so he can speak to him in his native tongue, etc. But I said on numerous occasions last season that Agued was showing more captain skills than Rice was. For example, Southampton at home when Fabianski had that eye injury. Sorry, Everton at home when we had that eye injury and we ended up winning it after the break of him getting treatment. Rice was over talking to Moyes the entire time. Literally the entire time. Agued was over there checking on him, making sure he was all right. The only other person that talked to him before he walked off the pitch was Creswell, and that's because he was standing in the position that he's going to be crossing. Rice didn't batter an eyelid. It's little things like that where you notice next like Bournemouth away, for example, if Agued's starting, which probably will be Agued and Zuma as the starting centre back pairing. If you watch any player get an injury, I guarantee you Agued's going to be the first one over there. And that for me is the fact that he's when he made his debut at home in the Europa League, he was bossing the back four straight away. Not a lot of people remember that. He was very impressive in that game. Very, very impressive. Not just for that, but just his ability to do the clearances as well. He seems to get on with everybody. And to say the language stuff helps as well for that matter. I mean, you hear him speaking Arabic to Ben Rama in the away promotion video. So it's stuff like that. And for me personally, I would do, but we'll have to wait and see, of course, because neither of us can change it.
He looks like a captain as well, doesn't he? He's got that sort of prefect look about him. You can imagine him like sort of handing a flag over.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what? I thought the same thing when we went against the Rennes game on Saturday.
Right.
And talking about Rennes, actually, that's what I was going to talk about earlier when we were talking about Scamacca. The Italian press was saying, that Scamacca's agreed a deal to move, blah, blah, blah. He's on the fucking bench. When a deal was agreed between a player and a football club, he's not on the bench. He's not anywhere near the bloody bench. And this is the bullshit that is coming out in Italy. They're just trying to unsettle the fan base, and it's working by the looks of it. And they just want to try and get him back to Italy. And fair enough. I mean, if he's that highly rated that the media team over in Italy, for whatever the papers are doing it, they're trying to force him to come back to Italy. There's got to be a player in there. There has to be. But guys, thank you very, very much for watching. Lawrence, thank you very, very much for your time, mate. We've gone over a little bit longer than originally planned, but it's the way these things go sometimes, regardless of the technical fuck up at the beginning. But guys, for those that have watched and made it this far, please do like, share, and subscribe. Put your comments in the comment section below. Very curious to see what you think about what we talked about with the forwards, and also, of course, let us know who you want, not who you think David Moyes is going to pick. Who you want as captain. But in the meantime, guys, look after yourselves. There should be more content coming up very soon. At the very, very least, around about this time next week. By the time you watch this, I'll be recording the Bournemouth preview. It's that fucking close now. So we've timed this series perfectly to make consistent content on the channel. But guys, thank you very, very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you very, very soon. All the best now. Take care.